This week on the Orange Box podcast, we talk all about the PlayStation State of Play, Valve banning games on Steam, the PlayStation Network outage, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to that beautiful bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 71. I am your host, the man who has built-in input delay, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man whose jumps in real life are just as floaty as the ones in Superland, Justin, better known as I am Zaracon. How you doing today? How's your week been?
It's been pretty good, I'd say, overall. We had some annoying snowfalls coming in over this weekend, but fortunately it seems like it wasn't sticking majorly, and there wasn't a whole lot of ice, so I think that's the best part, is that there was no ice. Sunday, even though I don't watch football or any sports like that, just because my mom wasn't going anywhere, I decided to make a sort of Super Bowl food for her. So I made some potato wedges. I made some refried beans a la your recipe.
Nice.
Also had a couple pizzas that I bought. And yeah, so it was just something small and simple that we just had and just enjoyed that. So that was good, and we had something. The food lasts for a couple days, so I didn't have to worry about cooking in that period of time either. And I wasn't expecting to hear this, but I got an email from Valve earlier this morning talking about the Steam Deck I sent in for my friend to get repaired. It's being shipped back, so hopefully it won't be long before it gets back here. So I'll when it arrives, I'll test it and make sure everything's working properly, and then just get in touch with him and get it back to him. But yeah, that's pretty much everything that's happened.
Good stuff. Let's see here. In terms of my week, I never take notes of what the stuff I do, but let's see. Did music on Sunday, and we had the Super Bowl thing. I mean, I didn't actually watch it. I mean, because I haven't cared about the Super Bowl in 22 years. That was the last time I actually paid attention to one. But we did nachos. So just, I already had some homemade queso, but I needed to make a little more the nacho cheese sauce. So I ended up making adding the stuff I already had made to a brand new batch and just making a bunch more so that I could jar it, and it'll be good for a while. But there was that, and then did homemade refried beans and some taco meat and homemade pickled jalapenos, cilantro, guacamole, which was not homemade, sour cream, I think that was pretty much it. But anyway, yeah, so that was good stuff. Let's see here. Monday, I decided to try doing something that I hadn't done before, which actually came out really, really well. And I didn't record it or anything. It was just a test, but I made some homemade red potato chips. They were really, really good. Just use a cheese slicer to slice the potato as thin as I could, and then just fried them up in some peanut oil, and it came out great. We're really, really good. Well, I soaked them in some water with a bit of salt and baking soda, because that is supposed to help with crisping up the potatoes, and that also helps, gets rid of some of the starch so that it's easier to fry them. But yeah, I did that for a couple hours, drained them, and then fried them up, and they came out really, really well. So I'll definitely do that again. Probably do it at some point for the channel. Speaking of which, I did record 2 recipes for the channel. I just forgot to actually get around to editing and ended up being a little too busy to do it over the weekend. And then Monday, I had started working on editing not Monday, Tuesday, I started working on editing the next comparison. And if I had thought about it, I would have done the recipe and had that out today, but I just completely spaced on it. So oh yeah, that's right. So yesterday we did basically an early Valentine's Day thing because Friday has a bit more. I mean, it's just more difficult. I mean, like, for one, we don't ever go out on Valentine's Day itself because it's always it's a bad time to go out. It's, way more busy and everything else. Usually we go, a day or two ahead of time. And this time we knew that there was a snow and ice storm coming in. So I ended up just picking up the roses for my wife, which I've done one for every Valentine's Day we've been together each year. So each year I've increased by 1 rose. So this year it was 18 roses. Our 18th Valentine's Day together, and starting last year I started getting my daughter a rose as well, though this time I couldn't get a single one easily, so I ended up just getting her a fake one. And I'm probably just going to do that each year. Get her a new fake one each year, and then she can save those up. So that'll be fun. But, then got all the kids a little bit of candy, and we got some sushi for Valentine's Day dinner, which was very, very good. But then we just been, chilling and doing the usual stuff. Not a whole lot going on the rest of this week. Gaming and, well, I didn't get a lot of game time over most of that up until really Sunday was the first time between Thursday and Saturday, and most of the day Sunday I didn't really get any gaming time in other than playing with the kids a little bit. So yeah, it was just very busy days. Had a lot going on. Oh yeah, because Friday, I forgot to mention that. So Friday we had a couple friends over from church, a couple single friends of ours, to do Groundhog Day, watch Groundhog Day, and made pizza and all that good stuff. We did kind of pizzas. We did the Huevos Rancheros pizza. We did the Thai curry chicken pizza, which is one of the ones I filmed. And then we did one for the kids that was just like pepperoni, olives, and pineapple. I think Canadian bacon too. And then fourth one was a meatball supreme. So yeah, good stuff. I think that's basically everything. Oh, one of the things that I did, the other recipe I did was I smoked a pork roast. So smoked that for 24 hours. And when I tried to cut it, it was just completely falling apart. It wasn't working trying to cut it. So it ended up just becoming pulled pork instead. But still came out really good. So it was very, very easy.
Good.
But yeah, I think that's everything. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yeah, that's definitely all good. And I mean, it definitely, and I think you mentioned this last year, it definitely makes sense to sort of do Valentine's Day stuff earlier since everyone's gonna be out. And I mean, if you're going out somewhere, then you need to get a reservation probably months in advance just because of how busy it is. So I mean, it's definitely smart doing it that way.
Yeah, usually I'll just make something, make something more fancy, but because Friday's just a harder day to do it because usually I go in the office on Friday, and so then it's like I don't really have as much time to do it. And of course with tonight us having the podcast and then Thursday having to edit the podcast, it's just I often just don't have time in that time frame. So it was good that we did it on Tuesday instead. That worked out really well. then we just hung out in the evening. So yeah, but what have you been playing this week?
All right, so I'm just gonna knock this one out of the way. So played a little bit of Factorio with my friends. Didn't do a whole lot, primarily just because I wasn't trying to get in the way of their organization. Because as I've said before, I'm not the greatest with logistics.
Yeah.
I'm more just like, tell me what to do and I'll tackle an issue. But like, planning factories and stuff is not my forte. So I was just hanging out in the back while all that was being done. But we made things work, and we're hopefully going to have an actual productive base still on that Antarctica planet that I mentioned last week. So there's that. Now, I went back and I was torn whether or not I want to actually finish this, but I decided just to go all in and finish it. I did Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, and I finished it, and wow. Okay. So it was one thing just to finish Aqua's story, but then to do the secret, to do the bonus episode, I'll say the bonus episode, a bonus chapter, and that was pretty good. That was pretty good. It was shorter than I expected. I didn't think that it was just gonna be, go fight Terranort and then that's the end of it. Essentially, I thought there was gonna be like a little bit more, but for what it was, I still enjoyed it. Definitely was tougher than I expected, and primarily just because of his combos that you cannot get out of once you're in them. That definitely was a bit of a nuisance for me, and I actually made a major mistake where right before I fought him, because I would transferred over the save data from my Aqua file, I had been trying just to grind out some of the different commands just to get all the commands filled out. And unfortunately, because of that, I was trying to get everything else. I took out all the ones I normally used, and so I didn't have any types of cure. And so when I went into the fight the first time, I had no way to heal myself and just got wrecked completely. And I thought, yeah, I need to fix my command deck, because that's not going to work out so well. But yeah, second time, it definitely went a whole lot smoother. It's still definitely difficult. And I'll say that during the second fight, I was really extra cautious because I wasn't completely certain how similar in some aspect the fight is to Ansem in Kingdom Hearts 1. And I absolutely hate the move that his Guardian does, where it holds you. And I didn't know if the Guardian did the same thing this time around, so I was really cautious and was really trying to keep my distance away, because I did not want to get grabbed and just be subject to constantly either having to take damage because of the Guardian, or just being held and just getting hit with an attack. So I was trying to avoid that at all costs. But the second fight, I definitely wasn't as bad, and partially it was because of the fact that shot locks are just so broken in this game. I'll be honest, and it's kind of good because it's good for an emergency, especially if you're down to health and you're trying to wait for your cure to replenish, and you really just need that invincibility. The shot locks are great if you're just trying to hey, I need a couple minutes of invincibility. I'm going to take advantage of that situation. But if you're trying to just abuse them, it's horrible because of how much you can get away with it. Because when I was fighting Vanitas in the final fight for Aqua's story, I was just trying to just see how much damage I could deal. I did not know that I was going to wipe out his entire health, 2 health bars with one shot lock. And I thought, yeah, I did not mean to just completely cheapen this fight by doing that. I just wanted to test something, and yeah, I mean, they're great, but definitely don't abuse those things at all. But the secret mission, or the secret chapter that comes after the bonus chapter, I really was not expecting that, and I guess technically to a degree, I guess you could say. I mean, from what I've seen, I haven't played it yet, obviously, but it seems kind of like you're playing a, I guess, sort of demo for Kingdom Hearts 0.8 when you're playing as Aqua. Um, it's definitely shorter than I mean, it's a extra mission, but it's definitely short. Um, I it was definitely different. I'll say, but it was nice enough. Now overall for the game, I would say it's a pretty solid game. Um, I feel like I partially overhyped it myself because I remember when Birth by Sleep released, I was seeing so much promotional material to the point that even my local news station, when it was released, they were like showcasing it on the morning news. And I was like, wow. And so, it really seemed like it was the second coming of Kingdom Hearts 2. And so, I feel like I kind of set a high bar for this game, and it's definitely a good game. I feel like the second half of the story is better than the first half just because, I don't know, I think I'm just really upset over the stupidity of Ericus and Yensid that I mean, I'm willing to forgive the fact that Aqua, Ven, and Terra should have communicated better, and that could have prevented a whole lot of stuff. But when the Masters are the ones who are, I would say, largely responsible for, not being responsible, I just kind of, I was just kind of disappointed on that end. But I think that the story overall is good. The commands deck, it took me a while to get back into doing those again since I haven't done that since Dream Drop Distance, but it's definitely good. I think some abilities are more useful than others to the point where unless you really need to use something, there's really no point to like use certain commands and abilities. But I mean, like, if you want to use them, you can, but I mean, it's good that you can at least experiment with what you have. But yeah, overall, I think it was a good game. And one thing I will say is that I have a feeling that this is going to be, trying to get 100% in this game is going to be very tedious to the point where the only Kingdom Hearts game that's probably more tedious is Chain of Memories, because the mini games I'm not really a fan of. Like, I mean, I can do the command board minigame, but I don't want to have to do it I want to do all the maps 3 times for each character, just to get it 100% to completion. And I'm not great with the racing games either, so that's going to be tedious because I have to do it for all 3 characters, and complete each map. So we'll see what happens with that. It's probably gonna be something that I pick up on and off, but I think as far as the main stuff goes, it's definitely a good game. But lastly, what I've been playing. Now, I played this because I wanted to just play something casual after going through Birth by Sleep, and I went through my library and I said, well, you know what? I'll play this game. This is a game that you got me for Christmas, and that was Superland. And it's definitely interesting. I mean, I know that that the game says there's a whole lot of different genres that's inspired by, and I can definitely see some of them. Like, I definitely see Portal with some of the puzzles going on. I can see some of the Zelda aspects of in it as well, and definitely Metroidvania because you have to go and explore and also get new abilities to go to new areas. And it's definitely a very creative game, I'll say. And it's very good at what it does. And I will say this though, I do agree with what you said before, because when you first played the game, you told me that trying to judge the distance between you and an enemy was difficult, and I definitely agree, because trying to attack enemies at first was really annoying, and I really couldn't completely judge how far I needed to be or how close I needed to be to hit an enemy, and also knowing how far I had to be before they could actually hit me. And once you actually get the range extender for your sword, that made things a whole lot easier. But at the same time, sometimes I swing at an enemy and I still miss them every now and then. But That being said, though, it's not like it's an overly difficult game with combat, and it is forgiving with your deaths. I mean, you die, you respawn in like the nearest area you were at, or if you're in a town or city or something like that, you respawn there. So the game is forgiving in your deaths. So that's at least nice. Now, one thing that is weird, and I have to do some more testing to see what it is that the game does not seem to be running as well as I would like. I know that you said you got the game to run at, I think, 40 on the Steam Deck or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to run it at like 75% resolution to get it to run that well.
So I thought that, considering that I'm using an actual dedicated GPU and a CPU that's way more powerful than what's in the Steam Deck, I thought, yeah, I should be able to get maybe something like 90, I would say. If I have stuff set to high. But unfortunately, the consistency was not good at all, so I just said I'll cap it at 60. And still, for some reason, because of when I was recording the footage, I saw in OBS that it was not recording at 60 FPS, and I was thinking, okay, what's going on here? Because I've never had that happen before so far. I mean, even with recording other games like Final Fantasy VII, or even as unoptimized as it is, Power World, what I'm recording is what I'm recording in the game. And I mean, I'm getting 60 FPS in the game, so I should be recording at 60 FPS as well. So I don't know if the game is just heavily CPU intensive, or I don't know if it's just, the game's not being optimized well enough, or the fact that maybe it's just that maybe it's a Linux issue that I'm experiencing. I mean, I haven't tested to see if using different versions of Proton might change anything or not. But yeah, it definitely is something I want to look further into. But I think that the game itself is pretty good. Some of the puzzles don't seem to be as... I mean, some of them just don't... It doesn't seem like they're clear as to what you're supposed to do initially. I know that there's one puzzle, or there's the one part where you have the battery that you put into the thing, so that we can shoot the little beacon to move one of the platforms. And initially I thought that was a camera. I didn't think it was an actual thing where you place a battery, and it wasn't until I just spent 15-20 minutes running around that I thought, oh wait, maybe this is something I'm supposed to put something in here, and it's not actually a camera at all. And there were a couple of puzzles where in hindsight they were simple, but just at the time it didn't seem very clear as to what I was really supposed to be doing. So yeah. I wish on that end it was improved, but I think that just as a whole it's a pretty fun experience, and it's pretty clever in what it does. So I'm liking it so far.
Okay, so going into the games that you were talking about. So first of all, I definitely want to say congrats finishing Birth by Sleep. Whether you decide to 100% it or not. I mean, I definitely understand the mini games. Like, I don't remember most of them. I vaguely remember that command board thing. I remember the one where you're basically, it's like a rhythm game that I didn't care for.
Oh yeah.
Granted, it was also on the PSP where it was 30 frames per second, so the timing was a little bit more off because you don't have as many frames to work with. But either way, I just never cared for that. But yeah, like I know I never did a lot of the 100% stuff. I didn't even do most of the secret bosses, and I don't remember if I fought Terranort. I don't know if Terranort was in the original one, in the original version of the game. But anyway, yeah, and yeah, Superland, I agree with everything you said. I think some of the puzzles are kind of obtuse, and then it's once you figure it out, it's like, oh, okay, that was pretty simple. I was just overthinking it, but it's part of the reason why I stopped playing it and haven't gone back to it. All right, Now, in terms of what I've been playing, there's actually quite a few things. It's just most of them, it wasn't very much of them. A lot of them was like at most an hour. So we'll just kind of go through. First of all, I want to mention this just briefly because it's not even one that I barely played at all, and I didn't record any footage because it was just messing with it a little bit. And that's Freedom Wars. I booted that up on the Vita. Turns out my original save is gone. I think it's on my Vita TV that I probably have it on the memory card in there, but it's not really worth the hassle of getting it because I'm not planning to play on the Vita anyway. But I basically just booted it up so that I could refamiliarize myself with it a little bit before I record stuff for the comparison later on. So plus side is, like, I thought I remembered that it took quite a while to get into combat, and it's actually, at least the initial like tutorial combat thing, you get in pretty fast. So that's a relief because I was afraid I was just gonna have to deal with a bunch of like really slow footage to get to that when it comes to the comparison. But speaking of comparisons, one of the things that I played was Hellblade. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, and I played that both on Switch and Steam Deck. Basically went through the first boss that you can face, and took about an hour for each one. I decided to change the way I filmed, and I think this might be the best way to do it going forward. So, obviously there's been a lot of comments on some of my more recent videos where people are saying, oh, the lighting is completely different, whatever, even though it's just, the camera settings, because I'm trying to get the best shot of each screen, get the right color profile and everything else. So I decided this time, I continued to film in the same newer location, but this time I didn't have any lights on overhead. So the only light I have on is like lights in in adjacent areas, like the living room in this case, and some natural light. That helped so that the lighting would be very similar between the two, but also it gives both screens a chance to really shine. You really get to see how good these screens look, and also get like an accurate idea of the color. The really great thing also, in addition to that, and I made sure that I tested this before I actually did the recording, is that this time the audio came out great for both of them. There's no oddities like there was with the Switch version for Persona 5 Strikers. So yeah. But I will say, with the settings on the Steam Deck, it's kind of like a mix of low, medium, and high settings. Like textures I have really high, and then the other settings, it's kind of all over the place. But with that, I'm getting, I have it capped at 60 frames, and on average, it's getting between 45 and 60, which is not great. I mean, it could be great if I could get just a solid 60, but this is a very visually complex game, and so it makes sense that it wouldn't be quite as high. The Switch, it's 30 and lower for the frame rate, and it's a slow enough game to where it's really not that big of a deal. I will say though, the bit I've got of the comparison put together so far, well, for one, it's not taking me nearly as long. I've already gotten through the first 25-ish minutes of the comparison, and that I only spent maybe a couple hours working on it, so that's a lot faster than usual. And yeah, so it's coming along nicely. It's definitely interesting to see the differences, because when I was playing the Switch version, it looks really good on the Switch screen, and I was thinking, oh, these cutscenes seem to be potentially just about identical between the two. The cutscenes are fine, obviously the rest of it's more blurry. But then as I'm actually watching them side by side in the comparison, I'm noticing much more how different the two look. I mean, the Switch version still looks really good for the Switch, but when you compare it to the Steam Deck, it's night and day difference. You know, it is a massive difference. I mean, even in the cutscenes where it seems like it wouldn't be as different because of how good it looks on the Switch, it really does look a lot better on the Steam Deck. And that's even with, you know, settings nowhere near maximum. So if I was doing a comparison with my PC, or if I was streaming from my PC, it would probably look extremely better because I can max out all the settings and get a high frame rate. But obviously that would be dishonest, and that's not what I'm in the business of doing. So, but yeah, that's really all I did with that. It's just kept doing the recordings for both of those. Something I just kind of randomly decided to install on the Steam Deck is a game from my GOG library. I'm pretty sure I got it free, probably through Amazon Prime or something. That's Baldur's Gate, the original Baldur's Gate. So, or well, rather, Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition. I've never played a Baldur's Gate. I know, you know, a lot of people really love Baldur's Gate 3, but I am very much, as I've mentioned many times in the past, I'm very much the kind of person who, you give me the option to, I would rather play the older games before I play the newer games, because I feel like I'll just get more out of it that way. And so I played like just basically part of the tutorial. The controls on Steam Deck are fine. I mean, it really is very much a mouse-based game, and the touchpad works well. It took a little bit of messing with it, and I'm still like learning where everything is. 'Cause sometimes it'll say, oh, you know, choose this icon, but it doesn't show me what the icon looks like, so I'm just having to like mouse over each one and be like, oh, okay, that's the icon that I'm looking for. And yeah, it's a very different style of gameplay, and it's one that I think I could enjoy if I spent enough time playing it. But so far, I basically just went through part of the tutorial, or no, I guess I got all the way through the tutorial and I got into the first chapter of the game. This is not something I'm planning to actually like really play, at least not right now, but maybe sometime in the future I could see myself messing with it a bit more. I just was curious about it. I will note it is locked at 30 frames per second. There does seem to be a way to fix that. I just haven't gone in to do it because I was just really just messing with it briefly. So yeah, so that's all I really have to say about that. But there was this fanatical it's like not a competition, like it's basically a raffle. If you buy one of their like mystery game bundles, you get a certain number of entries for the raffle. And so I just bought a $2 mystery game bundle that came with like 5 random keys, and one of those was Doom 64. So I've never actually like really played Doom 64. I played like a tiny bit of it on the N64, but that was it. But yeah, I just played like through the first level on my Steam Deck, and of course, obviously, you know, runs locked 90 frames per second and everything else, and it's pretty fun. I think I need to fiddle with the field of view, maybe make it smaller, because sometimes it felt a little like almost like I was getting a little motion sick playing it because of just the way it's designed. But I don't know. I mean, it's not something I was like really planning to get into, but one of these days I wouldn't mind playing through it just for fun. Especially because it's one that I've never, you know, really played all the way through. So, but yeah, that was all I did with that. But then I did end up playing some more Snake Pass, and I got the rest of the achievements. So, let's see, what did I have? There was one level where I had to get through the whole level without touching the water, and it was a water level. So I mean, I just had to collect the gems that were in the level. So just 3 gems, and do so without ever touching the water or anything else. I also had to get through all the levels without dying. And since I didn't know which levels I had already done that way, I just went ahead and went through level by level. There was an achievement that was just like you touch these idols that are in each of the levels. And so I just did that. And there may be one or two other random ones. The funny thing is, the very last achievement that I needed was something that I didn't even know was an option. Like, I may have done it in the Switch version when I played it, but I don't think the game ever explicitly tells you that it's an option. It's literally just pressing a single button to use what they call snake vision, which is basically like, detective mode or whatever in Batman. It just, reveals collectibles and all that. So it's like, oh, that was the last achievement I needed? Okay. But yeah, so something I do want to note with Snake Pass. So I remember before when I had tested it out, I could never really get like the best frame rate that I was happy with for the game. And I think what I mean, like I was, maybe able to get like 40 to 45, which is fine. But it's not like I couldn't understand why I couldn't get a better frame rate. And I think I know I ended up turning down the shadows, and I think I turned off anti-aliasing, maybe. I believe that those were the two settings that were the trick. And once I did that, the game was running at 60, and it was great. So that ended up making the rest of my time playing on the Steam Deck much more pleasant. And yeah, so I had a good time with it. Glad that I finally got around to finishing those achievements, and it's good stuff. Of course, I played some Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I didn't get a ton of time with it. Basically, I really just played some on Sunday while the Super Bowl was going. So I just finished up Costa del Sol, or at least like the main part of it. Like I could leave at any time, or I could do like some side stuff there, which I'm still kind of doing that. But yeah, the little bit of time I got with it was fun. I definitely I want to spend more time on this game. I tried playing a little bit on the Steam Deck, and I may end up uninstalling it from there because it's just so blurry. Like, Remake was great on the Steam Deck. I played it probably like 80% of the game I played on Steam Deck. But Rebirth just does not look good on the Steam Deck, and it doesn't run well enough. Like, even if I could get a locked 30 frames per second, I would be happy. But I can't even get that. And the visuals are just really, really blurry. And texture's not always loading in properly is what I was going to say. That's not exactly what I mean by it. That's not exactly what I mean to say. What I mean is just that I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like it's not sharp enough of an image, and the frame rate drops enough to where it's hard for me to be satisfied with playing it that way. So I haven't played as much of it as I would if it ran better. And I haven't had time. I mean, when I've wanted to play it, the one time I really had some more time to play, I was thinking about streaming it from my PC, but at the time I was rendering some videos, so I knew that streaming from my PC was really not an option. So I didn't. And just working on, it's probably Snake Pass I was working on at the time, but now of course I'm completely done with that. So, but yeah, Rebirth is still great otherwise, and hopefully I'll get some more time with it this weekend. Saturday, I am hoping to do basically nothing, and then I'll just kind of work on the comparison probably more Monday, Tuesday, depending on how all that works out. So anyway, there's one last game I randomly decided to play. That's Trek to Yomi. So I can't remember if it was you that I talked to about this game or if it was someone else, but it was like it's like a 2D side-scrolling samurai game, entirely in black and white. By default, it has like film grain and stuff, basically meant to, you know, look like an old samurai movie. It was one that I had just been interested in checking out for a long time, and I got it cheap on Instant Gaming sometime last year. So I just randomly decided to install it today and played quite a bit. This is a game where I have very mixed thoughts on it. So I really wanted to love this game. I want to love this game. But there are just so many things about the game that I really do not like. So I'm going to start off, first of all, I love the art style. I think the art style is great. However, the black and white, as much as I appreciate it from the cinematic aspect and everything like that, I think, at least on the Steam Deck screen, this really is detrimental to the game because it makes it so much harder to distinguish things at times, especially because, you know, the Steam Deck screen, even on the OLED, it's a small screen. And the character models on this game are very small. Very, very small on the screen. So you have small character models on a relatively small screen. And so it's hard to distinguish things. And like there's like a flash that, you know, enemies do basically at the point that you could parry their attacks. But the problem is it's so small and so hard to see most of the time that it's really hard to parry. On top of that, there seems to be some input delay, and I don't know how much of it is there, and it's possible that it really is just me. I am also playing on the highest difficulty that's available, because I think there's only one other difficulty, and that's something that probably unlocks when you complete the game, and that's just, I believe that's like a one-hit kill mode, where one hit for you and for the enemies. But the parry timing is really weird because of what seems to be an input delay. And I'm like, there's one particular enemy I can think of where it seems like I actually have to hit the parry before the enemy attacks in order to properly parry their attack. And, you know, it's like the game tells you early on, oh, you know, watch for this little flash, and then that's when you parry. But like this enemy, you have to parry before that flash, because if you don't, you will not successfully parry. And the thing is that the enemies hit much harder. Like a lot of times it's, you know, it can take me multiple hits. Like if I'm doing a standard attack, it'll take me like 10, sometimes feels like 20 hits to take down certain enemies. And then the enemy can take me down in 1 or 2 strikes. And it's really annoying from that standpoint as well. I don't know. It's hard to fully explain. Now, if you've played this, of course, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't played it, you can watch my gameplay that's in the video version of the podcast, and you'll at least get some idea somewhat. I just recorded this gameplay and this evening, and it's as far as I am into the game right now, which is, I think I'm on chapter 4 right now. So I've like completed, I've either completed 3 or 4 chapters, plus the prologue. So anyway, there is actually a mod to get rid of the black and white filter on the game, but from the brief testing I did, it doesn't seem like it works on the Steam Deck. But I would definitely use it if I played this on desktop, because it would just, I think it would help immensely. I mean, granted, on my desktop, the game's also going to run better, and everything will be bigger. It's a much bigger screen, so it won't be as hard to see things. But I do think that the color would really help with this game, just to make it easier to distinguish things, especially when enemies are attacking and all that, and trying to get the parry timing right. And that could also, help me figure out, okay, is this an input delay in the game in general, or is it specifically a Steam Deck thing? The other thing is that it doesn't run great on the Steam Deck. I think low settings, I'm getting like 45 to 60 frames per second. And if I'm doing like higher settings, I'm getting like 40 to 45, sometimes drops into the high 30s. But yeah, I think that's really all I have to say about this game. It's just, I really want to like this game, and I haven't fully decided if I'm just going to stick with it and finish it out, because I don't think it's a very long game. I think it's pretty short, but I just feel like, oh, I guess one last thing I want to say is that the combat itself, I just feel like is not very good. And maybe it's because I'm so spoiled by games like Ghost of Tsushima that control so well with the combat. But this one is just like the parrying is not good, the slashing is not good, and there's just not enough variety to the attacks. And then there's other things where like you can either parry an attack, or once you get a certain ability, you have the ability to switch places with an enemy. So like if you hold forward and parry at the same time, then you'll move behind the enemy. And as long as you have the right timing, if you move behind the enemy, then you can attack their back. But the problem is that most of the time, when you switch places with the enemy, you move so far away that if you try to do the attack, unless you're like immediate, you'll be so far away that you can't even hit them. And there have been so many times where I accidentally did that, and I was trying to parry an attack, because there's like a certain enemy that if you know how to parry them, and this is the one where you basically have to parry before they attack, then it's like, okay, you parry their attack, do 2 heavy strikes, and then parry their attack immediately again, do 2 heavy strikes, and do that again, and it's a total of 6 heavy strikes you have to do against them. But if you accidentally move past them because you're switching places with them, then that messes that whole thing up, and then have to find the right timing again to actually deal with their attacks. Anyway, I think that's everything I have to say about Trek to Yomi, and that's my last game.
All right, good stuff. Now, wow, I have not heard Trek to Yomi in quite a long while, and I can agree with you that it's a game that I want to like, but just couldn't get into it. And actually, I stopped for a completely different reason than you, because it's been a long while since I played the game, but the combat, at least to me, it seemed okay-ish. I think the biggest issue I actually had with the game was the fact that you couldn't disable the depth of field, and that really was actually what stopped me, because it really was hurting my eyes having just like that blurry foreground all of the time. And unfortunately, you can't disable it at all in the settings. And I even asked about it in like Steam forums, like saying, is there a way to disable this at all? And apparently you can't do it unless you like use some sort of Unreal Engine tool to disable it that way. But there's no way, you can't even go into like the config files and do it, because I did something similar like that with Octopath Traveler, because I just really don't like depth of field at all in games, to be honest. But yeah, that's the reason why. And I mean, I definitely can understand what you mean about how it would be on the Steam Deck with the characters being so small, and like you said, on a relatively small screen, it's gonna make it so much harder to see what you're doing and to dodge. I didn't consider the fact that it being in black and white could make an impact, but thinking about it, I can definitely see what you mean by that. I am surprised though that the performance isn't that great, because I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that it was a demanding game, but I mean, I don't know if it's just because of the way it's optimized, the fact that it's Linux. I don't know if that's like another reason why, but it is disappointing to see that, you know, you can't really get a consistent 60 FPS on a game like that. But yeah, I can definitely understand your frustration with the game. And I mean, it is a game that, you know, like you said, you wanted to like, because I mean, that game was sort of cope for me, because I thought, well, at the time, you know, since we can't get Ghost of Tsushima, this is Ghost of Tsushima at home.
Yeah.
You know?
The Temu version of Ghost of Tsushima.
And yeah, and I mean, I really did appreciate the fact that they sort of trying to create that samurai film aesthetic, with you know, like the black and white and grainy texture. So granted, I disabled that because I was like,
yeah,
I really just don't like that at all. But yeah, it definitely is a shame that the game isn't that. It's just not that fun of a game, I guess you could say, and that there's some stuff that prevents you from enjoying it. But yeah, if you do continue to get through it, you know, I hope that gets better for you. I mean, I don't remember how far into the game I got, but I probably didn't even get past the second chapter. Just I was like, I really have to stop playing this game. It hurts so much.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, definitely. Going back though, because I actually have multiple questions for multiple different games, and actually the first question I have is, what's a Vita TV? Because you mentioned that earlier, and I've never heard of that before.
So basically, it's a little box that allows you to play Vita games and PSP, PS1 classics, or well, rather the digital PSP games. You can play physical Vita games, and then you can play digital PSP, PS1 classics. It at least used to be able to stream, to do remote play with like PS4. I don't know if it works anymore. I don't think it does, but it's possible it might. I honestly don't know.
So I guess essentially just like a small little console version of the
more
Vita?
More or less. Basically, it's like if you took the Vita, got rid of the screen and the controller, and then you have a little box that lets you play your Vita games hooked up to a TV or a monitor or whatever.
Okay.
If you, you probably wouldn't remember this far back, and I'm pretty sure at the time you were probably working, but I know you were at least watching my Extra Life stream. The first one I did, I played Dissidia with the Vita TV.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay, that makes sense now as to how that happened. Oh yeah. So actually, this is another question going to Baldur's Gate, and correct me if I'm wrong, because when you were mentioning the controls, I thought there's got to be a way to get it done right. Was there a console version of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2? Because I feel like I saw a physical version up for the Switch.
Yeah, there is. I don't know how it controls, comparatively speaking, though. I should have looked that up, because I know that I've seen it available on Switch before, and I was curious about it, but I've never looked into it.
Yeah, because I was just saying,
I could see. I could see how they could adapt this control scheme to the Switch. It would be a little awkward, but I think it'd still be doable. But yeah, I can imagine that probably it's different in some ways.
Yeah, and considering the fact that you're playing through GOG, I would have hoped that they would have given some sort of controller settings, implemented into there. Granted, of course, it wasn't originally a game meant for a controller. It was really just a mouse and keyboard type of game. But, considering the fact that they did something for consoles. I would have imagined that GLG, since they're trying to update games to play on modern hardware and also have controller support, I would have had thought expected that they would have tried to implement that into the game, or at least their version of the game. But I mean, I know you said it's not a game you're really planning on getting too much into, but if you do get back into it, hopefully you find something that is more that makes things easier for you and more enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if it's still possible to get the Switch version. I mean, shoot, if I could get the Switch version and it controls better, I would probably play it on Switch instead. Whew. Yeah, $139.95. No, thank you. For a used copy.
Oh my goodness.
It's possible PlayAsia might have it too. I'll have to check them and see if they have anything, because sometimes they'll have games that are out of print. UK version is only $125 for that. No, I'll probably just check and see what it is for the digital version, because I doubt I'm going to be able to find a physical version that's reasonably priced. So.
Yeah. Oh, and one last question. This one's going to Hellblade. So you said that the cutscenes were different. Are they not pre-rendered? I thought
they are pre-rendered, but well, they're rendered in engine. So they're so they worked with what they had to, obviously, with the Switch in order to get it working on a lower resolution, lower power handheld and everything.
Okay. And then I guess just as a general question, how's the battery life, I guess, then for the, I guess, both handhelds?
I didn't check it for the Switch. I'd honestly just have to look that up. But it's roughly around 2 hours for the Steam Deck.
Okay, that sounds about right then, since it's a visual type of game.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's the last question I have on my list then. Good stuff.
Indeed. All right. Let's get into the news. So, first of all, of course, we had the PlayStation State of Play today, and there's a whole bunch of different announcements here. We're not going to cover every single thing, but we will cover some highlights of ours individually. So, why don't you start us off?
All right, so I'm going to start off with one which I think is just a me one, or it might be just me. This is Warriors Abyss. Now, I'm not a Warriors type of person, Dynasty Warriors person. I mean, only Warriors type of game that I've played was Berserk and the Band of the Hawk, and that was just because it was a Berserk game. And I mean, the style of game is fine, but unless there's something you really like if you want to play Hyrule Warriors, like you're playing that because it's a Zelda game. But I mean, unless you really just like Warriors games, you're not really gonna be interested in them. Now, this one really stuck out to me because of the fact that it's a roguelike, and I thought that makes it different enough that's actually interesting to me. And so I mean, I'm interested in this game. I don't know if I'll get it, because for one thing, actually, this game shadow dropped. Like as they announced it, they also said it's releasing right now. And also, it's not expensive. I think it's reasonably priced. It's $25. Well, starts at $25. If you want to get the deluxe edition, it's $40. If you want to get the ultimate edition, it's $80. I'm not paying that much money for this game, but I mean, for $25, I think that's pretty reasonable. I might still wait for something like a sale, maybe when it's more like $20, maybe $17. But like I said, it seems different enough, and to the point where it's a Warriors game, but it also does something different, and it's not just the regular hack and slash type of game. So that's why this game really stuck out to me in the midst of everything else.
Yeah, when I saw this, it just made me think of games you've been playing, like Vampire Survivors and what's that other one? The one that's the Diablo style?
Halls of Torment.
Halls of Torment, yes. So yeah, when I saw that, I was like, that definitely made me think of you. And I mean, I think it has the potential to be fun, but it's one of those where I don't like Warriors games. I mean, like I tried Hyrule Warriors and I got into it for a bit, but it just got very, very repetitive and very annoying. Just how repetitive it was. And I even gave it a second try getting the 3DS version, because I thought, okay, well that will give me more motivation to play than the Wii U version, because of the fact that, I can play it anywhere. And I got even less far in the 3DS version. I mean, granted, the 3DS version didn't exactly run well, but yeah. So and I do have a couple others. Like, I got Fire Emblem Warriors on the 3DS more just because I wanted, when I was collecting physical games there at the end when the eShop was shutting down and all that. I guess Persona 5 Strikers is technically a Warriors type game, but there's more to it than typical one, and there's actual like story and so on and so forth, and it just, what I played of it, it's definitely better than the other ones that I played, but I don't know. I still am just not a huge fan of that type of thing. This does look better just because of the fact that it has, just the the Vampire Survivors kind of thing. I still would say the likelihood that I would get this game is slim to none. Now, if I won the game, like in a raffle or something, sure, I'd check it out. But otherwise, I'm just like, meh, whatever. But there was another game that showed up that piqued my interest more than I expected it to, and that is Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Now, the reason why I didn't expect this to pique my interest is because I loved Sonic Racing, All-Stars Racing Transformed. I absolutely loved it. I thought that it was, in many ways, a better game than Mario Kart 8 because there's just so much more you can do. And, early on in the Wii U life cycle, there was no Mario Kart, and so it's like, okay, well, I'll check this out. Ended up really enjoying it, and then eventually got it on PC and played it a bunch there as well, and still really enjoy it. But with Sonic Team Racing, it looked like they got rid of all of like the transforming aspects, and I could be wrong on that. But it just like the thing that I thought was so great about All-Stars Racing Transformed was the fact that you had these different vehicle forms, and then of course you had all the extra single player stuff and so on and so forth that made it really fun. But this one brings back those transforming things and adds additional ones from the looks of it. Like they add, so originally it was just you had a car, a boat, and then a plane. Now you also have like an off-roader, and you have like a skateboard kind of thing, and it's just, and then you're like going through portals to go to different worlds. And I mean, like the tracks in All-Stars Racing Transformed were fantastic, and I can already see some of those are back for this one, as well as new ones. But yeah, I'm actually very, very interested in this, and I think that it'll be a fun one to play with the kids too, and just play solo, because I mean, I thought that the single player content in the other one was really good, and I could see myself, as long as this one has equally compelling single player content, I am very interested. I don't know what kind of engine it's going to run in, whether it's going to run well on the Steam Deck. I hope it does, because that would just be fantastic. I don't think I've ever tried out Transformed on the Steam Deck. Maybe one of these days I just need to install it and see how it runs. It should run well since it was originally a PS3 and 360 game. But anyway.
Okay, so hearing you recommend this makes me kind of want to check out Transform, just because I feel I guess I really didn't play too many. I guess you could say the good Sonic racing games. I
Hmm.
played Sonic Riders, and I played Sonic R, and that was just as a joke because I already knew the game was it's infamous for not being good.
Yeah.
But I didn't play Transform, and so I mean, like hearing you say it's better than Mario Kart 8, which I thought was pretty
I
good.
mean, to be fair, like when I say it's better than Mario Kart 8, I don't necessarily mean that it controls better, because I couldn't quite say that, but it has a lot more depth than Mario Kart 8.
Okay.
And it has
Okay.
like level. I mean, you can level up the different racers and their carts and stuff. And there's a bunch of like single player challenges and stuff like that. And you can go for higher level races, which of course you can do that in Mario Kart as well. But that gets you rewards, which also enables you to unlock new racers and unlock new tracks and so on and so forth. And just the tracks at least in Transformed were really great. Even as someone who wasn't necessarily familiar with a lot of those Sega franchises, just I enjoyed the tracks. They were just so well designed. But I mean, I would definitely say if you're going to get Transformed, just find a really cheap copy, because of course there's this new one coming out, and this one's probably going to be similar, if not even better. So
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely have to look into that then, because I really passed over that game, just because I didn't really give much thought to it. Like I said,
yeah,
beforehand, played Sonic R as a joke, but Sonic Riders, that was like, it was okay, but it wasn't something that I would say, yeah, it's a great racing game. But yeah, so I guess I'll definitely have to check this one out then. Both the Transformed and this upcoming one as well, and I'll definitely have that on my radar. So thank you for suggesting this game, because I never would have thought about giving it a shot in the first place.
good. Well, I hope you end up liking it, because I mean it's one that is in my Steam favorites list, because I really like the game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, granted, I've never gotten all the achievements or anything, but I go back to it occasionally, and of course now with this new one coming out, I probably won't end up going back to Transform unless I'm just in the mood to play it. I mean, I might even just install it and mess with it in the next week. But yeah. All right, what's your next game?
All right, so the next game is Lost Soul Aside. At first when I saw this game, well, to be honest, I'll be honest. For a lot of the games, I'll be honest, I was not expecting to also have them come over to PC as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I saw this, I thought, okay, this is just gonna be for PlayStation. But no, this game actually is coming into PC as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this one seems to be more like a hack and slash type of game, or maybe not completely hack and slash, but definitely more action based than you'll see a lot of games, which sort of are aiming for slower, possibly like Souls-like approach. But this one's more just like more action oriented than other games we've been seeing, and it looks pretty good. Style reminds me kind of like a newer Final Fantasy type of game, like Final Fantasy 12, 13, something like that. Definitely looks interesting. I've added it to my Steam wish list, and I'm looking forward to giving this game a shot.
Yeah, I had heard about this one probably like, I don't know, a few months ago or something. And I mean, this one I guess was announced a long time ago, and was even said that it was coming to PC way back then, that it was going to be day one on PC. So I did know that it was going to be on PC day one, which is funny because of course it's being funded by Sony. So, but yeah, I think the game looks cool as well, and I also have it added to my Steam wish list. Probably not like a day one thing by any stretch because I just have too many games, but it does look cool, and I like the fact that it's coming to PC on the same day. So, but yeah. Next game for me, bring out the videos here, is, to no one's surprise, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater got its release date trailer for August 28th. And I do want to note, just real quick, anyone watching the video version, some of these trailers are really low resolution because the service that I use to download the trailers, some of them, for some reason today, are just all downloading at 360p, even when I have it set to 1080 or 1440. It's like, so it's a very low resolution. But anyway, it still looks amazing. I'm just watching this. It's like it has me so hyped. I just hope it's gonna run well because it looks incredible. Like the way it recaptured the stuff from the original version of the game, or versions, because there's also the 3DS remake. But it's just like I love Snake Eater. It's such a great game. And I'm super excited about this one. Of course, it's releasing on all platforms on August 28th. No confirmation yet of Switch 2, but it's possible it could be there at the same time. That may even be why it didn't come out last year, but I don't know if I have anything more to say about it. I'm just very glad that there is a release date, that it's not too soon. I have plenty of time to prepare myself, and looking forward to it.
I think, to no one's surprise, it's going to be a day one.
Yeah. I mean, it's day one everywhere. I mean, PS5.
No, I mean day one purchase for you.
It should be, yeah. Most likely, as long as it's not ridiculous on the price. I mean, I think that this is one. Well, I was going to say I'd be willing to pay $70 for it, although realistically, it's probably going to be on Green Man Gaming, and then it'll be cheaper. So,
oh, yeah, I probably would have to go there because I was just looking at now, and based on the Steam page, it is $70.
Yeah,
I see the prices available now.
So yeah, I'll check Green Man Gaming, and most likely it will be a day one purchase for me. I mean, theoretically, it should still run well enough on my hardware, even though it's an Unreal Engine 5. But I mean, if they can get this running decently on PS5, there's really no reason that it shouldn't be able to run well. I just hope they don't require ray tracing. If they require ray tracing, I'm just gonna go down to Konami headquarters and smack somebody upside the head. It's like, don't require ray tracing. Yes, exactly. That's right. Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, like, watching all the different sequences in this, it's like I remember every one of these sequences, like, just by watching them. Like, yeah, I remembered that. And like all these things that are going to control way better with modern controls. And I mean, even if they just made it control as well as it does in Metal Gear Solid 5, that would be incredible. It would be a huge improvement over the original because, of course, I played it on Vita first, and then I played it twice on 3DS. And it worked, but it wasn't great. And, being able to play it even just with a full-size real controller would be great. Mouse and keyboard for some sections would probably be great too, but I probably would just do mostly controller. So, anyway, I'm excited.
Now, I definitely agree. It's great that we've gotten this release date, and I'll be honest. I mean, I could be wrong, Well, it doesn't seem like it was necessarily too long ago when the game was initially announced. Like it's been what, 2 years, three at most.
Yeah, I think it was 2023. Pretty sure.
Yeah, so I mean, the development phase has been very good. Especially compared with a lot of other games that we've heard announcements of. Nothing has happened, or several years before we get an update on something, and the fact that we had the game announced, we had something shown last year, and now it's coming out this year. So I think that Konami did a great job with timing everything out, as far as announcing the game, showing off some stuff. Boom, here's when we're releasing it. So kudos to them. They did a great job with this. So a lot of other publishers could definitely learn a thing or two from them in that aspect. But yeah, the game definitely does look amazing though, and I might pick it up because I never finished the original Snake Eater. I played it on the 3DS, but I never got all the way through. So I might give this a shot.
Yep. All right, give me your next game.
All right. Next game is going to be Lies of P Overture. Now, I have not played the original Lies of P, so I still need to finish. I mean, I have the game. It's just one of those backlog cases, and it definitely was one that I was interested in, though. Because it's a Souls-like, but also I was intrigued in the aspect that it's sort of very loosely based off, Pinocchio.
Mm-hmm.
So I was intrigued on sort of like that fairy tale aspect of it. So because I haven't played it, I don't know how it ends or anything like that. But the fact that it's getting an expansion is pretty cool. It's nice, to see that the game received so much positive reception that the devs wanted to go back and do some more with the game. So I'm definitely pleased to see that. Obviously, I won't be getting this until after I finish, playing the base game. But I'm very thrilled to see that there's more to come from this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've only ever played the demo for Lies of P, and I didn't even finish it. Because I'm pretty sure it just went through like the first boss, and I didn't beat the boss. I tried once or twice and didn't try again after that. But at that point, I hadn't beaten any Souls-like, so I was less determined on that front. But yeah, I want to play Lies of P eventually, but it's another one where I'm just watching out for like a really good sale and waiting until I'm ready to play something like that, because it looks great. It ran well on the Steam Deck from what I played. I think I might have even been able to get 60 on that game. I may be remembering wrong on that, but I feel like I was able to get 60 on it. And yeah, so either way, I think this DLC looks neat, and yeah, I don't really have anything else to say on that front. But as for something else that looked interesting to me, I think really the rest of these these other two are ones we share. So one of those is Tides of Annihilation. And this is, well, I just think it looks great. I think it was cool. I don't know if it's a Souls-like. I didn't really look that much into it. I added it to my Steam wishlist because it is coming day one to all platforms. Obviously not confirmed yet for Switch 2, but it is at least coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox. But yeah, I think it just looks cool. So obviously this one was on your list, so you can go into your thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It looks very nice. This one, based on the gameplay, or at least the footage that they showed, it does seem to also similar, I guess you could say, to Lost Soul aside, this one definitely seems to be more of just action based. It kind of seems like it's also more of like a hack and slash type of game. Maybe not as much as say Devil May Cry, but more akin to that than some other games. But it definitely seems very flashy, very fun, and so it caught my attention. And like you said, it's on all platforms, so hey, why not?
All right, give me your next game.
All right, last game I have, and this is more so just because I was intrigued that more is being done with, I guess you could say, the franchise, and that is Sorrows. Now, this is a game that is based on what Sony said is sort of a continuation of, or it's being built on Returnal, which is a game I haven't played, but the concept is, I mean, it's I guess you'd say a AAA roguelike in a sense, but
Mhm.
I've heard the game is actually good. I just never got around to, buying it and trying it out.
Mhm.
But I thought it was interesting the fact that that they wanted to continue doing something with that, because I mean, with some exceptions, it doesn't seem like Sony necessarily expands upon smaller ideas or newer ideas unless they really do well, like say Horizon or Last of Us. It doesn't seem like they really expand too much on other ideas. So the fact that they want to do something new for the Returnal, I guess, franchise is pretty nice. And even though it was just a CGI trailer, they said they're going to have gameplay coming out later on. So maybe it's gonna be maybe it's gonna be something very similar to Returnal. Maybe it's something that is different to a degree. But I feel like it definitely will be a roguelike based, especially based on the dialogue in the trailer saying like every time I die. So I'm like, yeah, it's a roguelike because that's the only type of time. I mean, unless it's a Souls game when you die all the time. That's having death as a mechanic is something that was in Returnal. So I feel like it's gonna be pretty similar.
Yeah, I agree on this one. I think I'm glad that they're continuing the same style of game that they did with Returnal, because Returnal was something that interested me from the first time I saw it. And of course, the first time I saw it, I had no idea it would be eventually coming to PC. I still haven't played Returnal. It's been on my wish list for a long time, but the prices just never dropped to the point where I've been like impulse buy, and with that, it's just kind of like it's also a matter of I want to buy it when I'm ready to play it. I want it to be something where it's like I just want to play this game, so I will buy it and I will play it and I will enjoy it because I know I'm going to enjoy it. Everything I've heard about it has been great. The concept behind it was always intriguing to me, and as far as I know, it runs pretty well on PC. So lots of good reasons. It even technically runs on the Steam Deck. I don't think it runs the best though, so I don't know if I would try playing it there. All right, well, I should say I don't know if I would actually play it there. I would definitely try playing it and see how it goes, but anyway. So yeah, this one I think it looks like it's going to be good. But obviously all we have is the CGI trailer and just the pedigree of what they did with Returnal to base that assumption on. And so I have confidence it's probably going to be similarly good, if not even better, than Returnal was. All right, are there any other things you wanted to cover from the state of play?
No, sir.
All right. Well, there's just a couple of like smaller announcements that I want to bring up. I don't have any trailers attached to them, but they did, of course, confirm that Stellar Blade is coming to PC. I think they said in April, maybe. I can't remember for sure. Maybe it was May, actually. I'd have to look that up. I'll probably just like put the date on screen unless you find it. but they
It is June.
June. Okay, that's right. So yeah, that is coming to PC, which we already knew was going to happen anyway. So that's not a big deal. Not a game I'm going to buy, but I think it's good that it's coming. At least it will definitely sell on PC, without question. It's probably honestly going to be one of the best-selling, originally PlayStation exclusive titles, because the PC audience is very much into that kind of stuff. But then also there's they're doing the remaster of Days Gone, which I mean I wouldn't buy the remaster. If I'm gonna buy the game, I'm just gonna buy the regular version, because it's like, yeah, there's no point. The nice thing though, the one thing I will give them kudos for, assuming that doesn't change, which it might, is that they are not delisting the original game. They're just saying that if you want the remastered additional content, you can purchase the content separately. It's just like a DLC pack, basically. And it's like, okay, that's fine. You're not trying to get rid of the original version like they did with Horizon Zero Dawn, forcing people to buy the remaster. It's possible they've changed that since then, but yeah.
That's definitely good.
But yeah, I think that was everything. I mean, there was that Shinobi game that looked cool, but I've never played a Shinobi game, and I didn't download the trailer, or I don't really have any specific thoughts on it. Overall, what would you say your rating was for the show? Not necessarily a number, but like, I mean, if you were going to give it like a letter grade, or...
I would have to give it... I'd have to give it a C+, to be honest. I mean, while there were definitely a lot of games shown that intrigued and interested me, I feel like what I expected from Sony was not given at all. I mean, the only first-party title they had... Well, I mean, I guess technically too, because of Soros. But the only other first party they had was a remaster of a PS4 game. And not the right one, you might say. I mean, honestly, I really expected to see something regarding Wolverine. I expected to see something regarding any other titles that they haven't had in development. So the fact that they didn't show anything like that here was disappointing. And I'll take the L in expecting to see any form of Bloodborne. But even that aside, they just really didn't show anything as far as first party. I mean, I saw a meme saying that, this was the state of multiplat, just because everything pretty much was just games that are coming into every platform, essentially. And I mean, some stuff we already knew about, some stuff we didn't know, but I mean, it just wasn't what I was expecting overall. So that's why, while there were things there that I liked and think I'll enjoy, as far as what I expected to see, is why it was quite disappointing to see. Because I mean, honestly, I feel like a lot of the stuff would have been something you'd see at when it existed, like an E3, and just like seeing general trailers being shown, not say a Sony state of play. So that's why I say a C+.
Yeah, I can pretty much agree with that. Like, really, I think the only thing that actually got me excited in all of that, and even then it wasn't like excited, was the Sonic racing game. And even that, I'm just kind of like, I want to play it, but I'm not like, I wasn't like jumping up and down, like yelling, screaming, whatever. It was just like, oh great, they're bringing back the transform mechanics. I'm happy about that, and I definitely want to play it. But like, most of the stuff was stuff we'd already seen. Or, well, I should say there were quite a few things that we'd already seen. Like Hell Is Us was one of the things that they showed that, of course, I've been interested in that one. And then like Lost Soul aside, I already knew about that game. I had already seen enough about it before to where I was like, okay, this looks cool. There was like, you know, a couple games we talked about that were cool, but nothing where I was like, this blows me away. It's just more like, oh, that looks neat. I think I'll check that out. Add it to my Steam wish list. And like you said, State of Multiplat. That's basically what it was. It was just a bunch of Multiplat games. I mean, I think the only ones... No, I don't think there was a single game on there that was exclusive to PlayStation, except maybe Saros. And even that, I mean, it will come to PC. It's just a question of whether it's going to be a day one thing. They didn't say it was, but that doesn't mean it isn't. It may be that they're just kind of slowly easing people into the idea of it coming to PC day one. Because we know it's going to be PS5 and PS5 Pro enhanced, but, you know, all we've seen is a cinematic trailer so far. And sometimes they wait to break the news until they've given PlayStation fans a chance to just ease them into the idea, because I think that it could be a day one PC game, and it's over a year away. So, or well, I guess I should say it's at least a year away, unless it comes out in like January next year, which is unlikely. So, but yeah, nothing that was like overly exciting. Obviously, both of us would have loved to see Bloodborne. Honestly, I also just would have liked to see some more like exciting things. It's just there's a whole lot of games where just very samey. The one that probably impressed me the least of all was a game called Mind's Eye. It's like, it was basically just like a cinematic trailer of this guy with like a chip in his neck and stuff, and it wasn't really I mean, the only gameplay that they were showing in the actual trailer was just him driving a car, and it's like, okay. And then, you know, after that they showed some actual gameplay, but the gameplay was exceedingly generic. Like, not even good. Like, visually it looked nice, but the gameplay is just a third-person shooter, and a third-person cover-based shooter. And it didn't look like there was anything unique about it. It was just like, this is the most generic thing I've seen. I mean, the story might be interesting, but the gameplay itself was... I mean, it was just the most cut... It felt like it was the most cut and paste that I've seen in a while. Not quite as bad as the day before, you know. It was just like all over the place in terms of what it was showing, and was just an Unreal Engine asset flip. I mean, this one looks like at least it's an actual designed game. It's just the gameplay doesn't look particularly interesting. So, but yeah, I think that's all I got to say on the state of play.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's get into this whole thing about Valve banning Steam games. You want to cover this?
Yeah. All right. So, this is something that kind of getting from Eurogamer. Valve has put out a statement, rules. Actually, oh wait a second. Okay, actually no. I see looking here now. There's actually been an update to this. Okay, so actually, it looks like this rule actually was in place before. It looks like Valve is just re-emphasizing it based on this update I'm seeing now here from Eurogamer, because this wasn't here before. But essentially, Valve is prohibiting, or at least has been prohibiting, games that force players to watch in-game ads. So if you think about something like a mobile game or some sort of free-to-play game where you're playing the game, and then, you know, after maybe a turn or something like that, you have to watch an ad play for about 20 seconds before you can get back into a game. Valve has been banning that feature, and, you know, or banning games that actually have that in them. So you cannot sell a game on Steam if it has that feature implemented, which And in fact, wait a minute, here's actually a full statement here. If your game's business model relies on advertising on other platforms, you will need to remove those elements before shipping on Steam. Some options you can consider include switching to a single purchase paid app, or making your game free to play with optional upgrades sold via microtransactions or downloadable content DLC. So essentially, if you must monetize your game, or if you want to get monetization, use these methods, where you actually have to buy something rather than, forcing people to as they say, gating gameplay behind advertising. So definitely something that is definitely good. So before I get into my thoughts, which I feel like we're definitely going to be in agreement, what are your thoughts regarding this ban?
Good. That's it. No. Yeah, I obviously appreciate the fact that they're doing that, because it's pretty scummy if a developer tries to just force you to watch ads in order to play their game. I mean, that's dumb. But yeah, I think it's great that they already have been banning this, and that they're enforcing it even more now. So I don't really have anything further to say on that, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much the same here. I mean, I don't know when when this update was made, but it's definitely, like I said, good that it's something that they have been doing. And even, I mean, it would be nice if if they hadn't been doing it before, it would be nice to do it. But it's good to get this out there, so that way people know that, hey, we don't have to worry about dealing with this when we buy a game on Steam. Not have to worry about, like, oh, I bought a game to play, not a game to watch. Which, I mean, maybe some games you're watching more than playing, but being forced just to watch ads, it's not fun at all. And so yeah, definitely glad that they're enforcing this. But yeah, really not much more that I have to say on that. I mean, I guess besides the fact that Valve can do nothing and they still win.
Yep. Definitely. Oh, just a quick side tangent, or side note, because I was checking to see if there was any updates on what the cause was of the PSN outage, and I came across this thing about Snake Eater, and that so we saw in the trailer for Snake Eater, for the release date trailer, that they're bringing back the Ape Escape mini mode thing that was in the original version on PS2, and for the Xbox version, they're replacing the Ape Escape monkey with Bomberman. But something that's interesting here is that both the PS5 and the PC will have that PlayStation character. So the Ape Escape character will be in the PC version as well, which I just think is kind of funny. But anyway. All right. Well, let's get into the next story here, and let's just go right into it. The PlayStation Network outage that happened over the weekend. There's no information yet on what actually was the cause of the PSN outage, but the PSN went out Friday, this past Friday on the, what was that, the 7th? No, not the 7th. Yeah, the 7th. Yeah, it went offline Friday the 7th and was restored a little under 24 hours after that. And what PlayStation is doing as a way to compensate the players who, everyone who is affected by this, is they are giving them an additional 5 days of PlayStation Plus service. But a couple things I want to note before I let you give your comments on this. For starters, this PSN outage actually made it so that people couldn't play, in many cases, their single player offline games. include especially the digital ones. I'm not sure about the disc versions as well, but make it so that certain digital titles could not launch without internet access because it couldn't verify the license. And then it warns players that the game will close after 15 minutes due to being unable to verify the license. So I know this happened with at least one of the games I saw was Metaphor ReFantazio, that people couldn't play their digital copies, at least, of that. And yeah, so in addition to people, this also affected the Monster Hunter Wilds beta that was that weekend, because it couldn't go online at all. So there was no way for people to play it. And PlayStation still has not said to anyone why it went offline. I don't know. I'm brain dead. You can talk.
All right. So first off, Sony wanted to make PSN mandatory. Oh yeah, that's another thing too for the game. Like you could play the games, but like if you were trying to use PSN on PC, you couldn't do it there either. And they wanted to make it mandatory on PC with your services going down. And thankfully it wasn't like it was back in 2011 when it was down for days. But at the same time, is PSN really that reliable to the point that you think you're good enough to enforce it to play your games on PC? Like make it mandatory for every game? No, I'm not. No, Sony, no. That's why we did not want you to make it mandatory for games on PC. And also, I think even on the console side of things, this really just enforces the reason as to why DRM is a bad thing. I mean, people say, "Oh, well, you got to deal with that stuff on, on PC, having to deal with the Nouveau." This essentially is what you get on PC, is the fact that you couldn't play your digital games because they couldn't check the licenses. That's DRM, essentially, more or less. And and also people say, "Well, you're always online with your console or your system, so it doesn't matter if there's DRM because you'll always be online, so it doesn't matter." Oh, well, guess if the servers go down, then you're out of luck. I mean, that's the same people say, like, DRM is no big deal, except for when it actually goes and bites you in the butt, which is another reason why, I'm always speaking out against DRM, because I'm like, DRM hurts the people who actually buy the games. It doesn't hurt people who pirate the games, because they're getting games without DRM in it, and they're having a good time. People who buy the games, though, have to deal with the DRM. And I mean, sure, for games that are online multiplayer, I can understand not being able to play them because, you actually need to connect to the servers. But if you're playing single player games, there's no reason why you can't play the games in offline mode. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do that. So this really highlights I guess you could say, the incompetence that shows what happens when you implement this stuff. And when you're complacent and allow this to just persist continuously. But man, it definitely was a mess, though. Like, and I really want to know why Sony hasn't said anything as to why it's happening. Because I mean, is this something that happened on their end? Did someone do something where they messed up the code or something like that? Were they hacked? Like, Sony not actually saying what's going on is very interesting to me, because I feel like most companies would have said something, saying like, "Oh, the reason why we have these outages was because of X, Y, or Z." But Sony hasn't said anything, just saying like, "Oh, we're sorry that the services went down. Here are 5 extra days for you." So I really want to know what happened in the first place that caused PSN to go down. But yeah, I mean, and I actually did see something where people were saying like, well, actually no, here's something I thought about also, is the fact that PSN is a service you pay for, and yet it can go down like this. I mean, and people think that's fine, whereas meanwhile, if I'm sorry, I don't pay for online on PC, and I'm not worrying about, is my service going down or not. I mean, if my service is going down, it's because my internet's not working. It's not because of the fact that Steam is down, or I mean, you don't have to worry about GOG because that's built to be offline in the first place. So your games are fine if you're playing offline there. But if you're paying for a service, you shouldn't have to deal with this. Like, this is unacceptable, just to be blunt about it. And yeah, I mean, I really want Sony to say what the issue is, because I feel like not saying anything is worse than saying outright we were hacked or something like that. And again, it was much shorter than the 2011 incident, but at the same time, being down for such a long period of time is kind of concerning, to say the least. And especially when you can't play your games the entire time, especially your single player games. Like, that's the worst part, is the single player games, because single player is meant to be played on or offline. I mean, granted, if it's single player, it's not online, but if you want to like connect to servers and do stuff, upload stuff, have stuff synced to the cloud, yeah, sure, fine. But you should be able to at least play the game offline. There's no excuse for that. So that's, again, another reason why you shouldn't need to have DRM in games, because they just hurt consumers. They don't do anything for us. They're not beneficial for our end. And people who say DRM is good, they really do not know what they're talking about. But that is just everything I have to say about that.
Sorry, just give me a second. I'm
no. I was like, I know he's gonna say something.
Thinking through where I'm starting. Okay, so for starters, paying for PSN, especially in a situation like this, you're paying for DRM. You're paying extra so that they can restrict you from playing your games. So that's definitely a problem. Even if you're not paying for PSN, and you can still be restricted from playing your games if PSN goes offline. That's not good. I don't think that there's any situation, apart from like the aforementioned online specific games, games that are online only, where it makes any sense for this to be a thing, except that it literally just restricts you from playing your games if they go offline. Now, I've heard the argument that, oh, well, your internet goes offline. Occasionally, your internet will go down, or you'll lose water, you'll lose electricity, whatever, and you're not, you're not making as big of a deal about it. And it's like, well, yes, because I'm paying, because utilities are not the same as paying to access the internet that I already pay for. Now, it's one thing when it's like, okay, my internet service goes down. It sucks, it's annoying, and I make sure that I get compensated when it goes out, especially when it's during the work week and I'm having to use a hotspot in order to be able to work. But even then, I'm still getting compensated for it. And I'm not paying extra on top of what I'm paying for. Like, I'm getting compensated for the time I lost from that standpoint. But when you're paying for an extra service that prevents you from accessing your own internet on your device, it doesn't make sense. I'm not good at expressing this, and I realize that people who are okay with spending that kind of money, they're not necessarily going to fully understand, especially because I'm not doing a good job explaining it. But it's not something you should be paying for. It's not something we should have to pay for. Now, I understand PS Plus has its benefits in that you get games that you can play as long as you're still subscribed to the service. Okay. But when you're paying for the service and it's preventing you from being able to access some of your single player offline games, that's just not cool. I don't know how else to say it. I wish my brain was working better tonight because it just really isn't. Um, there are other people who do a much better job explaining it than I do. But either way, it sucks that they did this, and that ultimately they're not really. I mean, giving an extra 5 days is not really going to help. It's not really going to make that much of a difference, and the fact is, you're still paying for a service that you didn't get to use. And instead of saving money, you're just being given something that doesn't cost Sony anything. I don't know. I wish my brain was just like normal today. I don't know what is the deal. I think maybe I just haven't spent enough time thinking through this particular one. Hopefully Sony will explain it, but I guess going back to the other thing here. The reality that Sony was asking PC gamers to sign up for PSN and trying to require it, which, I mean, thankfully they've been pulling back from that. You know, requiring PSN to be, I mean, requiring PC players to use PSN when PSN does go down like this sometimes. It's like, why are we having to use this thing? Why are we having to log into this service that's not secure from what we can tell? I mean, we don't know what, if any, information was compromised. Thankfully, the joke tweet of, you know, Concord being added to everyone's library wasn't actually true. But why would we want to have to use a service that is unsecure, especially when it comes to providing potentially like financial information and that sort of thing? I mean, I made sure to take any cards I had on PSN off a while ago after I got hacked one time. My PSN network account got hacked, and they ended up spending money on my card, and it just was like a big hassle dealing with all that and canceling cards and so on and so forth. And it was all because my account got hacked, and I have not had that happen with Steam. Not that it doesn't happen, but it's not as often. And the difference is Steam is also free. Steam is a free service, and it's a better service. And, you know, PlayStation, you're paying extra for it, and then you still end up with situations like this. Hopefully there'll never be another situation like what happened in 2011, but even the fact that this happened was not good. So, I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
I think I have, or just like something that I've always said that just popped up in my mind as you were mentioning this earlier. Like, the thing about having to pay for PSN, and this also will apply to, you know, Xbox Gold as well, is the fact that you buy the consoles, then you buy the games, then you have, and of course you spend money on your internet service provider, whoever it may be. But then you have to spend extra money to use the features on the game that is online multiplayer, and to use the internet, which you already pay for. So you're paying to use the things that you've already bought in the first place, which is the games. And in order to actually use the game to the fullest extent, you have to spend money to do that, which is if you're using PSN or Xbox Go, which is, I think, ridiculous. And again, as you said, you don't have to deal with that on PC. Because, you know, just playing the game online, it's a free service. So I think that it's just a ripoff. But, you know, the fact that with PSN, you know, possibly getting compromised and hacked is even worse than what you get with Xbox Gold, because at least that's secure, at least.
All right. Any other thoughts on that?
No, sir.
I think we're just going to call it here and go ahead and go into our recommendations and dissuasions.
All right. So then, my recommendations, I have two actually. First recommendation is going to be a recommendation and a dissuasion. And that is for the final bosses in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. And I guess primarily if you're playing on critical mode, which is what I was doing, use the shot lock on the final bosses, but only when necessary. As I said earlier, if you are trying to heal up, but you need to wait for your cures to cool down, using that to get 5 seconds of invincibility or just to do extra damage is definitely very useful. But at the same time, don't use that as a crutch because it really cheapens out the bosses when you can just essentially 3-shot them, especially if you use high level shot locks. That then it's like you can wipe out 2 energy bars in just one shot lock. That really cheapens it out. So use them when you need to. Otherwise just don't. And then my second recommendation is to be overly cautious when pouring something into a measuring spoon or cup if what you're pouring from isn't necessarily meant to be poured. And I say that because when I was making the refried beans and I was putting in the chili powder, unfortunately I couldn't scoop it out because I was using one of the smaller containers, so I couldn't just dip the spoon in it and pour it out. So I had to pour it onto the spoon, and it was fine for the first few spoonfuls, but on the last one I was trying to shake it out and I added in much more chili powder than I wanted to, so it made it quite a bit spicy, not overwhelmingly so, but to the point where I definitely need to have water on hand because it definitely had too much of a kick to it. So just be very careful if you're trying to pour something that doesn't necessarily help with pouring. So something that should be shaken and not poured, just be very careful because you can never really take back what you put in for some things.
Now, what kind of chili powder were you using that it made it spicy? Was it chipotle chili powder?
Yes.
Okay, well then that would explain it because I'm like, chili powder isn't spicy. How? But yeah, chipotle chili powder goes a long way.
And the first few spoonfuls were fine, but the last one I just had a hard time, and I was really trying to just shake it out, but then it just it all went out.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Okay, because at first I was like, "Are you even black?" If regular chili powder, chipotle chili powder, I can understand because that is pretty spicy, and especially if you get too much of it. But yeah, okay, all right. Obviously, not revoking your black card because
marked as still black.
All right. So my recommendations, the first one I have is it's kind of a recommendation and a dissuasion at the same time. And that is make sure that if you are replacing a car battery that you don't accidentally drop it on the ground. So we'd been needing to replace the battery in my wife's car for a while, and it just was something I hadn't gotten to, and I finally got around to doing it. So I guess it was probably Monday. Yeah, Monday I went over to Sam's. I took the old battery there because you can exchange it, or you can by giving them the old battery, they take like $20 off of the new battery. So got the new battery, brought it back to the house, was getting ready to put it in, and I made the unwise decision. I had opened up the hood and I set it on like kind of the edge rather than putting it in because I just was trying to take off the terminal covers. And I was just thinking, okay, because sometimes if you put the terminal covers on, then it just makes a shock. But I forgot that's only when you're going from a live battery to into a dead battery. You know, when you're doing that, then yeah, you can end up with a shock. But anyway, so I set it down and walked over to the trash can that was nearby and fell to the ground and burst. And thankfully it didn't get on me, or it only got on the ground. I was able to tip the battery up so that it stopped leaking. And then I took it back to Sam's, made sure to take it in like some plastic trays so that on the off chance it decided to leak, it would be less likely to do any damage because it's battery acid. And thankfully, they just didn't exchange. They didn't charge me for it, which was, praise God. I was very thankful about that. And then I made sure when I put the new battery in that I put it all the way in to the terminal rather than, and then, did everything else and got the car running. Still need to take it in to get looked at, but yeah. So don't do that. Don't do that. That was a very stupid decision, and it's only by the grace of God that nobody was injured and that no battery acid got on anything that it could damage. So, but my other recommendation is, actually, it's really two recommendations. One is Snake Pass. It's a great game, well worth playing. I definitely recommend people check it out. The other, because it's contrary to the Dissuasion that I'm going to be talking about, is for a good samurai game, Ghost of Tsushima. Although I haven't played it yet, I'm going to guess Rise of the Ronin and Nioh could be options as well. I'm sure that there are multiple good samurai games, but there's obviously one that I will be saying for my Dissuasion when I get to that. So, what is your Dissuasion or Dissuasions?
My Dissuasion is going to be, don't expect Bloodborne anymore. I think we've all had our hopes set, and we've all been disappointed continuously. And even when we have the most minuscule amount of hope, that's still too much hope. So at this point, just don't expect Bloodborne, because Sony clearly isn't giving it to us. So just if you're gonna play Bloodborne, just play it on your PS4, PS5, or playing through the emulator on PC. Like, that's the only way you're gonna be playing it right now at this point, because Sony is not doing anything for us. So yeah, don't expect Bloodborne anymore.
Probably a good Dissuasion, unfortunately.
I'm not gonna say that I'm actually gonna follow my Dissuasion completely, but I'm just gonna say don't do it.
All right. Well, my Dissuasion is don't get Trek to Yomi. It looks great, but it's just not a good game. And I may finish it. I'm not sure. I think it's really just going to depend on how long it is. If I find out that it's only like a few more chapters, I'll probably finish it. But if it's like 20 chapters long, I'd be like, no, I'm not finishing the game. I'll stop here and call it good. But yeah, at least I got it cheap. I think I paid like $2 for it, probably, through Instant Gaming. So it was cheap. I mean, if you really want to check it out, just get it as cheap as you can. Try to get it, for $5 or less, because then at least you're not spending a bunch of money if you find that, like me, you just don't like the game very much. And it's rare that I find a game where I just really don't like it. And this is definitely one of those where I'm just like, yeah, this just isn't a good game. I want to like it, but it's just not very good for a variety of reasons. But yeah, and I think that was it. That's all I had written down anyway. So, all right, where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel. I am Xeracon. That's IAMXERACON. So youtube.com/@IamXeracon. No new content from this week, but I do have something actually in the works. I just need to get editing together and also just finishing up recording. It might be available this weekend. I'm not certain. I have to do some projects here and there, but it should be out by Monday, Tuesday, the latest, I would say. But yeah.
Sounds good. All right, well, you can find me on my gaming channel at the Frozen Gamer 87. No new content has been put up just yet. Still some things in the works, but nothing has really been finalized in terms of, I mean, like, I haven't recorded anything other than the comparison that should be up next week. That at least is a good chunk of the way done, and I mean, I'm hoping to get that done in time to release next week, but it's possible it may be as late as the following week, and hopefully sometime in that time frame I'll also get the recording done for the next comparison for Freedom Wars. But we'll kind of see. In case you weren't paying attention to earlier in the podcast, the comparison that's going up next is going to be Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice for the Switch OLED and the Steam Deck OLED. So that'll be a very interesting comparison, especially because it is such a visually focused game more than anything else. Much more a walking simulator with some light puzzles and light combat. So, but then also I have my YouTube cooking channel, Not Authentic But Delicious. That's YouTube at NABD Cooking. Nothing new has been put up yet, but I do have 2 recipes that are recorded and just need to be put together and posted on the channel. One is going to be for a Thai curry chicken pizza. The other one is for smoked pork roast / pulled pork, because that's really what it came out to be in the end. So I probably will put the pizza up first, but I haven't quite decided yet. Either way, those are both in the works, and one of them should be up next week. But then otherwise, there's also the YouTube channel for the podcast at the Orange Box Podcast. There, of course, you can watch our episodes every Friday, 7 a.m. Central Time. And the video version not only has our beautiful faces, but also has clips from games we've been playing, the trailers from various games that have been shown off, revealed, things just that we're talking about in general, and various other stuff related to that, but still has all the same content as what you get in the audio-only version. The audio-only version goes up on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, etc. And that goes out live 12 a.m. Central Time every Friday morning. And finally, if you don't want to sit through the full podcast every week, but you still like to hear our thoughts on various topics, you can check out our Pod Clips channel, which is at the Orange Box Pod Clips. And there I've been starting to post up clips from our episodes each week. For now, it's just going to be all episodes going forward. In time, I hopefully will be able to get clips from previous episodes on there as well, but it's just kind of a matter of when I have time to do it. So there's that. But finally, if you want to contact us, you can either send us an email, theorangeboxpodcast@gmail.com, or you can comment on our video version or on the clips. And anything you have to say, questions, comments, want to tell us to Persona 3 ourselves, or anything else, feel free to reach out. We'll get back to you. And even if you don't comment, it's fine, because we're still going to talk for 2 to 2.5 hours every single week, because this is how we catch up. We've been going now for a year and 3 months, 4 months, something like that. Anyway, we've been going since October of 2023. So, we're still going strong and keeping this thing going, regardless of whether we have listeners or not. So, yeah, that's everything I got. All right. Any final thoughts?
No, sir.
All right. Well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zaracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast. Until next time, don't buy Ghost of Tsushima from Temu. Orange Box Podcast out.